Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Natalie. Such a pleasure to be here this morning.
Yeah, it's fun to be able to do this on a Saturday morning, actually, because it's more relaxed in my life.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, really just grateful that you took the time today to be with us because you have so much going on that I want the world to know about. So, why don't you introduce yourself, a little bit of your career path, and then we can get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wear several hats, as you
Yeah,
alluded to.
yeah.
I have a lot of passions. The things I'm doing right now is I'm also known as the VP coach. So I create safe spaces for vice presidents and C levels. That's an area that I worked in for a long time as an advisor. When I worked in corporate, I worked at both the Royal Canadian Mint and Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation within HR. And there I worked a lot with vice presidents. So I got the inside scoop on what's on their mind and the pressure cooker situation they're living in. I also, before that, I started my career at the tender age of 22. I was hired at Coopers and Lybrand, which is now called PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yeah.
And that's where I started out. What was funny was I had applied for a job in program evaluation. I wasn't even sure what it was because I was second year university. So I don't think I even heard about HR back then. And yeah, I connected well with the team and I was hired. And then I was one of the first consultants who was hired right out of school, which was kind of neat to work within that environment. I worked in business process engineering, HR, organizational renewal. That was the name of the group. And so it really stoked my passion for understanding how people relate to their work, relate to each other at work, and leadership, of course, which is now my biggest passion. So I founded Light Your Leadership Inc. back in 2020 during the pandemic after having more of a broader based boutique HR firm that worked on any other, different various types of organizational initiatives. And but then I decided to really zero in on leadership because I had burnt out 3 times. So I figured once I unpacked that, I said, okay, well, what is it that I want to focus on? And I realized those burnouts were because of my own self leadership and my need to kind of connect more with that, as well as helping organizational leaders to tune into their employees and support them through that process and know how to engage them without burning them out and getting the best of them. So those are kind of the areas. And in addition to that, I've written a book. It's called Light a Fire in Their Hearts, The Truth About Leadership. And that's basically a work of love, right? So it's love for leaders, love for people in workplaces, and being able to help them to connect with that leader within. And recently, probably in the last few years, I started working with a Kenyan family to establish an NGO. So I also am co-chair of an NGO called Mustakabali Wetu, Our Future. And gladly, Natalie, I'm glad we're going to be chatting more about this because you've been an amazing champion for us. And it's important to give back. So that's another thing that I'm really passionate about. And finally, giving hope. So giving hope to people, especially during these times when there's a lot of negativity around us. I want to help people to connect with hope again. So
Mm.
yeah,
Well, powerful message
yeah.
to connect with hope. Um, so where do we begin? I guess my first question is what drives you? So, like, I mean, I heard so many things, and I don't want to focus it on just one right now. I just want to understand, like, who are you at your essence? Like, what is it that
Mm.
drives
Well, when we talk about essence, I like to go back to my childhood, I guess. And I was a happy kid. Didn't always have it easy for various reasons. I was a daughter, I shouldn't say I was, I am a daughter of Italian immigrants. Growing up in a community, there weren't very many people from different countries there. So, as you can imagine, that feeling of being included and like I belonged was not
you?
always present. And I think that's what led me to really become passionate about helping create inclusive workplaces for everyone, as well as inclusive communities. So at my essence, I think I'm a person who just wanted to make people happy. And I remember being really young doing that. Again, there were people around me struggling, and I was born fairly optimistic. Of course, I get down once in a while, but I have this ability to kind of lighten things up. And I think that's kind of what, now that I think about it, I just realized the connection to the company I've created, like your leadership, right? So it's how to lighten things up for people, how to, and myself as well, because when I go through struggles, and I have, and I'm sure I will continue to, is I always try to find what is that light that we can bring to it.
Hmm. Yeah. And so when you think about um, what you've been through with burnout 3 times and finding, that source of light for you, I'm sure, because I know a lot of people talk about and have been through burnout. They either fear it, want to avoid it, or have been through it. And what is it that, in 3 times for you?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, like, what part of you brings you to that point, and what have you done to move past it and through it?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm
Okay.
perfectionist, and every other kind of scenario that might lead someone to burnout. So, yeah, I think it was that. First of all, I was brought up very much in two cultures, right? So the Italian culture was actually three, because daughter of Italians, that was my first language, as Italian. So very much in the culture, um, the food, the get-togethers, everything, right? And then I grew up in a francophone community in Joliette in Quebec. And so then I learned French and became part of the neighborhood, played with the neighborhood kids. My parents were involved in the community. My dad was a cement finisher, had a company, so he was training a lot of people. He brought the trade to the town. And then I went to an English school. So then I had that aspect of it too. And so looking at these three cultures, with the Italian one, I would say would be the dominant one. A lot of people pleasing, like wanting others to feel comfortable, wanting, being a dutiful person, hardworking. Those were the kinds of characteristics we were encouraged to demonstrate, not just by our parents, but just by our culture. And accountability and perfectionism. I remember I was actually on a podcast yesterday, and we were talking about perfectionism, and the person asked me, like, when do you think it started? I'm like, I know exactly when it started. I was washing dishes at 6 years old. I was standing on a chair and I was washing dishes, and my mom came along and, like, oh, there's still grease on this, do it over, so I mean, she didn't know better. She probably thought she was doing me a favor teaching me how to wash dishes properly, right? But yeah, so that those characteristics would show up in the workplace. So I was, high performer, always doing my best. Because I had a talent for writing, which I had an amazing teacher in high school. He taught us how to write really well. His name was Mr. Mehta. And so when I started working at Coopers and Lybrand, then shortly after, I started getting asked to write proposals. So here I was, 22 years old. I was writing major proposals, and then of course, you do your proposal writing, then you need your billable time. So I was doing both. I was working as a research assistant and a research analyst, and then I eventually became a very young consultant and senior consultant. I think I was 24 when I was senior consultant. So I was working a lot of hours. And at the time, I didn't realize I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know about boundaries. Your boss asks you to do work, you do it. And you maybe have these fantasies that people will notice and intervene. That's not the way it works. You deliver, you get more. And I mean, I had a great team. They were lovely. But we were all in the same boat, right? We were all doing the same kind of heavy lifting. So I left there I was 27 or 28. I had already burnt out once by that age. And that's one of the reasons I left. One of my friends had gone to work at the Mint. And so she said, come on over. And sure enough, it didn't take long for me to start repeating the same thing, right? Because before I thought, oh, well, it's because of consulting. Well, here I was in another organization where there was more balance, but I was still working a lot. But I didn't stay there very long. I stayed 2 years. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I was working in human resources, but there was an opportunity at Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation that was better. It was in terms of the type of work. It was combining both HR and consulting, and it was working with vice presidents. So again, there I was like 29 years old, and I was already working advising vice presidents, and then it was great, until of course what happened again, right? I became a go-to person within the department, and I would just never say no. I would just take everything on. And even worse, Natalie, is I'd volunteer for more stuff because when somebody asks at a meeting, oh, who could do this? I didn't like that awkward pause. So I would always jump in. Oh, I can do it. Right. So that's why I'm saying when I talk about leadership and burnout, it's like, yes, it's the organizational leader, but it's also ourselves knowing, and first of all, realizing that we can set boundaries. So when I burnt out for the third time, badly, in my 30s at CMHC, they hired me a coach because they thought I needed help with time management. So it didn't take very long before Coach Andre, I remember him like it was yesterday, even though it was like 20 years ago. Coach Andre sat me down. He says, okay, tell me what's on your plate, because apparently, you need help with your time management. So I showed him what was on my plate. He goes, yeah, you don't, those 20 files, you don't need help with time management. You need help with saying no. And that was an eye opener for me. I never even considered saying no at work. I'm like, really? Will I get fired? He's like, no. I'll teach you how to do it in a way that is going to bring you respect, actually, and grace, and that you'll be able to negotiate better timelines and priorities and all that stuff. So he was kind of mentoring me in that space, and so I realized the power of helping somebody have important insights. Like I did, I think that was one of my biggest aha moments in my career, in my life. And it really, I think it saved my life, honestly, because if I would have kept on that path of not knowing that I could set boundaries or say no, then, I probably would have burnt out another 3 times. I'd still be in organizations. So that's what kind of seeds were planted there that, and then I had done some 360s, and it kept coming out, that people really appreciated how I listened and held space for them, and that I had, markers for somebody who would be a good coach. So that I kind of kept that in the back of my mind. I certainly used the coach approach in different things I did. And around 2013, 2014, because I had decided to start my own company in 2011, I signed up for coach training. So that's kind of the journey. That's where it started. And then, of course, 10 years later, here I am with you, Natalie, and your amazing Coach Academy organization, which, you're helping me to complete and make it official. I always say I'm putting a ring on it. I'm getting close. I'm getting close to my obtaining my PCC, which of course has been a long-term goal. So I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, well, listen, so I appreciate everything you just said. And one of my really big passions and missions is to help people understand the difference between coaching and mentoring. So when you talked about that experience, being hired a coach, looking back now, was that coaching or mentoring?
It was more mentoring.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah. So, he was called coach. He was working with a coaching company, but definitely more mentoring. He did use, like, looking back now, because I can remember my sessions really well. He did use some coach approach, but it wasn't pure coaching. Like that's how I differentiate. When sometimes when I'm talking to people, it's like, well, this is ICF style coaching versus mentorship or training even, and that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely. And that's, up until the first time that I took training in 2013, 2014, I didn't really understand there was a distinction. Unless somebody tells you, you don't know, right? And so then that's when I learned the difference. And then certainly what you helped to do was to understand really how to apply that difference.
Mm.
Because having worked in organizational HR for so long in organizational development, sometimes people want to have your expertise in that area, and other times they want your coaching. So it's important to be able to explain the difference. And also, like, if during a session somebody's asking for something, like my sessions are usually 90 minutes, then I differentiate. I'm like, okay, now this is coaching, and now, like, coaching stop. Like, so if you want to do strategy or whatever, or training, sometimes I deliver training as well. So yeah, it's an important distinction, and it's important to be clear about it with your clients, and to, as you partner with them, to for them to understand and make an informed decision about what it is that they're doing, for sure.
Yeah, and I think and I appreciate what you just said as well, because that's really what we tell people. You have expertise, you have years of experience. It doesn't mean that because you take a coaching lane that you can't also
Right,
approach
right,
the consulting lane, but separately, right?
right.
Weaving consulting into coaching, it just becomes consulting.
That's right.
So separating those two, coach first, consult after, because coaching is where the awareness is created, right? And that's
Absolutely.
where I think most consulting and advising is goes badly when we assume we know what's most important to
Yeah,
the solution for the
yeah,
client, right? For the client and the
yeah.
solution.
And I think it actually augments the impact to raise the self-awareness, to help the client and support and create that safe space so that they can get out what they need to get out and tap into their own truth. And then they can decide, it's like, okay, you know what, I want to learn more about this in particular, like what are resources, what is it? And the impact is much greater. And it's really a sacred space, to create that safe coaching space. It feels
Mm,
different than when you're consulting or training.
mm,
There's like a real connection there, and you could tell the person is, and this is one of the things I'd say, we're unleashing forces for good, so we're creating that space for the person to fill with all kinds of their ideas, their insights, their soul, their heart, and it's their space, and we're here there to hold it and to ask powerful questions so that they can explore and see what's in there.
yeah, it's such a different kind of energy in a coaching conversation. I mean, in fact, somebody described it recently. I forget who. Our approach to coaching is pure and applied.
Yes. Pure and applied. I love it.
Loved, because it is. It's
Yeah.
so pure and applied. So for sure, we're on the extreme end of non-directive,
Yeah.
but for a reason. Because when you bend a piece of metal, you have to bend it extremely so it can come back to center, and that's where I find with the professionals who come into, or the individuals who come into our community, they have to unlearn a lot before they
Mhm.
can start to
Yes.
learn and apply
Yeah.
the non-directive style of coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you said there. Come back to center. Because that's what it
Mhm.
feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Come
Yeah.
back to center. It's like
Yeah.
as we connect with them, they connect with themselves. And you can feel it. It's like, and they have
You
their
know,
aha moments, where it's like they sit
yeah.
back and they're like, and they're sitting in it. And you're creating that safe space with a pause. Like, I wonder often when I'm sitting there with a senior leader, it's like, how often do they does somebody actually listen to them, right, and create a safe space without feeling like they have to say something, without trying to convince them or direct them or make a business, just like listen and ask questions to help them go deeper. We're probably the only ones that provided them with that ability to do that, right? It's like a gift. It's their space, and we're the guardians to help them create that safe space for them. And one of the things that really lights me up is when I hear, Lisa, this is the first time I've actually been able to have like this space where I can just be myself, and that's pretty powerful. That's yeah, it's meaningful. There's a lot. It's like I said earlier, it feels like a sacred space because a person's finding themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I like your analogy to coming home. Um, and what that means to me is coming to a place of really getting to know who I am and what matters to me versus what people say I should be,
Hmm.
what people say I must be for them. So there's that opportunity to have this time with somebody who is really mirroring you. I had an experience yesterday. We were in a team meeting and we had brought in an external team coach to help us, create this marketing piece that we're working on. And I had said something. We were all going around saying what did we want to get out of the meeting and all that. And then it came to my turn, and I made a joke about becoming the like world domination in coaching. And I laughed, right? But after saying that, I really got into what I truly believe about who we are and what we want to accomplish in this space of coaching. And he reflected back to me. He said, when you said world domination, you giggled. But then after, it's like you got really quiet and silent with your thoughts and like assertive in what I wanted. And he said, I knew when you were really speaking your essence. And that reflection back to me was like, whoa, I still, after years of practicing this and years of learning and years of, continuous growth and education, that moment meant so much to me. So you don't outgrow it, right?
Right.
And,
Right.
it's like we all truly just want to be seen. And
Yes.
that felt seen in that moment. And when I felt seen, I felt smarter, I felt clearer, I felt more aligned. All those things happened in like minutes.
Yes. Well, it is. It's like accelerated connection or something. Um, and because I've had the pleasure of being coached as well by ICF certified coaches,
Hmm.
and it's yeah, it's like the aha moment when we experience it. It's like we go back and like, oh, like you can feel it. You can feel it in your heart. Like for me, anyway. Different people experience things differently, but it's that powerful. And all of a sudden, we see the world and life differently. And that, like it, in a second, we change our perception. Like talk about major shifts. Like sometimes you experience major shifts in coaching, right? And it's really an honor and such a rewarding experience to be able to offer that gift to someone to so that
Yeah.
they can have those experiences, you know.
Yeah. And it begins with trusting the person
Hmm.
that they can do their own thinking. They have the answers within. Because I think our instincts, like if I were to differentiate mentoring from coaching,
Hmm.
is this need to fix, sometimes
Right.
save,
Hmm.
advise, consult, do for
Hmm.
someone what the mentor may believe that person can't do for themselves. And that is true sometimes. Sometimes we
Yeah.
need to instruct, we need to advise, we need to do those things. But if we're in our coaching lane, we really believe that the client is capable of doing the work.
Yes.
And that instinct has to be self regulated
Yes.
to give that person time. Because again, coming back to the home piece, I think those moments, those aha moments, are about going home, about going, oh, this is what I really want, and this is what I really feel, and what I desire, and what my passion lies. And it's not that, again, external pressures to be something for someone else. As a people pleaser, I'm sure that's, a big piece.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of coaching programs like the ones you offer is that you're not just learning how to coach others, you're learning how to coach yourself. And we go on that journey too. I mean, every time I've had the opportunity to learn about coaching, I guess who's the first person I try it on myself, right? So we grow as we help others to create that space for them to grow, and absolutely, especially people who I coach with, they're leaders. They have a ton of experience, a ton of insight, and I mean, it applies also to people who are not necessarily in senior leadership roles, but especially in that role. And like, try to tell a vice president what to do, right? It's not going to work very well. It's not going to work out. Whereas when you create that safe space where they can sort things out through your powerful questioning, it's really an amazing process to witness. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, wow, that's really neat what just happened. And the person, you can almost see them going through that process of they get that light in their eye when they have their realization. They came to it thanks to your questions, but you didn't tell them what to do. You just created space and asked questions. And definitely, I think that's one of the benefits of the program. Certainly, in yours in particular, is that self-regulation piece. And I think I'd said something at one of the classes. It's like, it's coaching is also learning what not to say. It's knowing when to shut up, right? Basically,
I think it's more that than anything.
learning when to shut up and not to, in the past, I may have, because even though I had a program in 2013, 2014, I'd also taken, people would come into the workplace and teach us,
Yeah.
different methods, how to listen actively and all that stuff. And the style back in the late 1990s and 2000s, when I'd first been exposed to it, was all about paraphrasing.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. And I hated it. Instinctively, I did not like it. Right. And it's like, okay, which word do I have? Like, it just became confusing. And then it's like, why am I talking when the other person should be talking? Like, it's taking me half an hour to paraphrase, and so I really, really appreciate that in your program. It's like, the less you say, the better. I'm like, this is great. It's like knowing how to ask the powerful questions, and lingering. You say that a lot, linger, and the power of the pause and all those things. And it's amazing, the technique and the difference. It is more powerful. So it's almost counterintuitive. Like, the less you say, knowing what questions to ask, and then the lingering is actually more powerful than the paraphrasing.
Yeah, well, we talk about the 80-20 rule all the time, right? The coach is doing 20% of the talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even in today's world, it's more important than ever, because people don't take time to reflect anymore.
Yeah.
We're constantly bombarded by stimulus. We always have our phones near us, right? Like, we're constantly taking in and assessing and spitting out information. And, like, unless we have a practice of meditation, or we, take time to go for a walk without noise, without a podcast in our ears or a book playing, because that's still information. Like, I think coaches create space for people to reflect.
Yes.
And it's one of the very few places we get to do that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely true. It's, yeah, bang on. I mean, that's and it's interesting sometimes, just create, like, within 10 minutes, just because they had that quiet time for 10 minutes with some powerful questions, and they come up with solutions that maybe would have taken them a month to come up with. This is like on the spot, because they had that time to reflect, and to have, all everything that they have within them, all the knowledge, experience, wisdom, to connect and create those linkages, and they come out with, amazing insights that advance and accelerate their work in a quick way, very efficient. And it's
Mhm.
powerful because they came up with it. And so they are automatically bought into it, and take accountability for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. They automatically buy in. I every time I speak to a coach, I know they always have this one client that stands out, this one story. Do you have one of those where you're like, oh, that
Oh,
was like the moment I fell in love with coaching, or the moment I saw the power of coaching?
Well, I fell in love with coaching a long time ago, but there's a favorite client for sure, and they were in an industry in construction, and they were high level, and you know, they didn't have much space to explore their emotions
Mm,
in their work. In fact, it was the opposite. They were encouraged to shut them down and all that stuff. And so to have someone in that type of role, it was a very role of great responsibility, responsible for, you know, thousands of people, and to to see them explore their emotions for the first time in front of another human being was very powerful. Yeah, and the insights that came from that, and to see them that as they understood their emotions better, then they were making the linkages to what was going on in the workplace and understanding other people's emotions better, and
mm,
why people were reacting in certain ways to it, it was very powerful, um to see, I guess, someone's emotional intelligence open up,
mhm.
someone open their heart, you know, and allow themselves to go in places where maybe they haven't gone into since they were children, you know. So that, to me, that's the one client where it was very powerful, because they came into the program uh completely protective of what was going on inside, and then as they started to open up, their whole life started to open up, and then all of a sudden they were making decisions from a place of what was their essence, what they wanted to create in their life versus what they thought they should do, and the extreme amount of pressure and duty that they felt in their workplace. They had all kinds of beliefs around, you know, how they should show up in the workplace with their family and in society, and to see those beliefs, kind of see them deconstruct what was behind them, and then letting them go, and to see their life open up for them, was really amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that sense of duty, a lot of people have that, right? And
Hmm.
so, like we said, this coaching space gets to explore, because until we start to question it, it's true, right?
Hmm.
That duty is true. That duty is required until you look at it and go, oh, but what is it actually? You start to poke holes in it, and then you get to see, oh, but there's other possibilities and new choices I could make, right?
Right. And what I'm finding a lot with senior leaders with that very strong sense of duty, which probably got them to where they are, in a lot of in a lot of ways, in organizations, the way the cultures are set up right now. Hopefully it'll change. Working on it. We're working on it. um, but having that sense of duty, and then it's helping them understand the beliefs with those questions, right? What are the beliefs behind that sense of duty? And it's really cool when they figure out that they don't have to do it all themselves, and that not all the accountability is on their shoulders, and that they can
Mm-hmm.
let go of some of it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to see them kind of letting go piece by piece, and then understanding how they need to engage others to help them, and what that will look like, and how they want to show up in the world as a leader. You know, you're not the one who needs to do all the stuff, right? So understanding that, doing that, and using your language to resist that instinct to have to do everything and carry everybody's burden, once they figure that out through coaching, and it's like liberation, right? It's like liberating, and it has powerful results, because guess what happens is, like, the people who work with them are actually happier when their leaders not micromanaging them or trying to do everything, right? So and that's why, coaching doesn't just benefit the person that you're working with. It benefits anyone who comes in contact with them and has to work with them or live with them or deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, I always say when you grow, others grow around you.
Hmm.
It's because it's true. Like your impact has that ripple effect.
Hmm.
And the other thing that you said, which is really important, and we don't talk enough about, we do it in our motivation course, in that like very specialized course of 8 weeks, where we talk about the importance of relationships and how even 10 times removed can influence us. and that it's, and good and bad, but we have to recognize that we live in systems and we're not silos. And so
Mm,
how do these relationships, and that, the systemic nature of those relationships, how do they affect you and what you decide and what you focus on and where your attention goes? So yeah, that's what I love about coaching, is it's expansive,
yes.
right? And it's like, I think we think that, we're making decisions in this like very tiny context of me, without really seeing the
Yes.
bigger systemic impact of the world, culture, people, you know, work, family, community, how that impacts us, and
Yeah.
how we move.
I would suggest that's one of the biggest realizations, um, is especially when I work with leaders, because so they go up the corporate ladder and they
Mhm.
still feel the same inside, except maybe with more pressure, maybe a little
Yeah.
bit more crusty because they have more pressure, but they still feel like the same person.
Hmm.
They don't necessarily realize that others around them perceive them differently, and that their actions, their words, the way they show up is amplified. So, you know, a very simple order that they would have given as a manager, maybe to someone, all of a sudden, if they're vice president giving that same order to someone at a level, an entry level person, will be intimidating, or that will scare the person. Like, so having them reflect on and asking them questions about maybe some of the reactions they're getting from people, and helping them deepen, reflect on, so they can deepen that understanding about their dynamics of, well, how people perceive them, is really important when you're trying to explain that ripple effect, or even helping them understand the power distance, that people perceive when, as you grow up in the organization, as you go up, as you move up. And those are massive realizations. That is exactly what you said, when you start to understand the impact you have on others, and it's not just yourself, and it's not just the immediate direct report, but there's that ripple effect that affects 10 degrees of separation, is very powerful, because then that's when they have these huge aha moments. It's like, oh, right? And then all of a sudden, their sense of responsibility and accountability for their action goes up, and their empathy goes up, right?
Yeah, and that's magnified at the leadership level, like
Yeah,
you're talking about, especially if somebody's climbing the
yeah,
ladder, they don't really see how others perceive them, because yeah, you're right. Like they are still the same. And I can relate to
yeah,
that because of the way that the company has, grown and been
yeah,
successful. I still feel like that,
yeah.
new
Right?
entrepreneur who, people say, oh, she's so strategic. No, I just really try different things and so one thing will work eventually, I hope. But like it's interesting, but that concept can be applied to anybody, because we have a gap between what we believe our intention is, our purpose is, and how others receive it, right? The
Yes.
impact. So
Yeah.
intention and impact, we talk about that a lot in coaching,
Yeah.
right? The gap between the two. And that's where, when the awareness is created, you start to be able to, again, choose how you want to be, in a way that with so much more information,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're out of the blind spots, like the light has been shown, and to say for the name of your company, right?
Yeah.
You've been put into the light.
Yeah. Yeah. And shedding light on those kinds of things really makes a difference in somebody's life, because one of the things I see sometimes, and people start their coaching programs, like they'll be in a defensive mode. So they'll be at work, they're trying to lead, they're trying to get results, and they're on the defensive, like nobody's doing what they're supposed to do, and people are reacting negatively to them, and the CEO is giving them a hard time, their employees giving everybody else is giving them a hard time, right? So it's helping them find their role in that, their space in that, and understanding through powerful questioning what those relationships might be, and having the realization that others might perceive them differently than what they think, um, and also that their actions might have different impact than they intend. That when they start having those realizations, they shift from defensiveness to greater empathy. And all of a sudden their whole energy shifts, because then they're like, oh, they're not after me. It's not that they hate me. It's because they have this realization, and they finally understand that, you know, everyone we work with or deal with is different, and we need to understand ourselves first, and then try to help understand that's information that helps us understand others. So I find that coaching is probably the most powerful tool I've seen anyways, to build that empathy. And that empathy and compassion is really strength. It's strength, because then it helps you to shed your defensiveness and shed your fears, and to show up as a person who can be there for others and lead others and be the best version of yourself. So
It's so, so, so true what you're saying. Like, I wish I could shout it out to the world, put it on a billboard, because if we only just allowed ourselves to believe that everybody, no matter how they show up, everybody at some level, different levels for different people, want to be valued,
yeah,
want to feel like they are a valuable part of something, right? A team, a project, a task, whatever it is. And I think that our fear, defensiveness, as you called it, or even our maybe sometimes our egos, I don't know, gets
frustration.
in the way to and we become protective,
Yeah,
right? We become territorial, and then we start to push people away because we forget that assumption
yeah,
that everybody wants to feel valued, and we start to believe other things, right?
yeah.
So true.
100%. And then we, if we don't do the work to raise self-awareness, either for ourselves or when we help our clients through creating that space and with powerful questioning, if you don't raise that awareness, then the person's going to see life through that filter, and that's why they become so protective and isolated. uh,
Mm,
they see the filter of like, everybody's after me, or people don't respect me, or like they forget that the person is an individual. They have their own thing going on, and you're an individual. You have your own thing going on. So let's raise the awareness, so then that you can better help understand and support others who might have certain struggles or whatnot in the workplace or in life in general. So it's really powerful to shift from that protective, fear-based, defensive lens to a lens of support and compassion and empathy, and valuing others for them being as human beings.
yeah. And everything we're talking about begins with that creating that safe space to challenge people, right? To challenge them, to shift perspective, to notice what else could be true. And that's the work. And it's so powerful and yet so simple, like
Mm-hmm.
in its essence. I mean, it's not simple because we're not taught to communicate in this way and to be with people in this way, right? We're taught to have the answers. We're taught that contributing value is, having answers and raising your hand in school and getting the good grades and all the things, right? We're always evaluated by how much we know.
Right, right.
Yet we have to kind of unlearn that.
Right. And maybe we should start evaluating based on how well we listen and create safe space. Yeah.
Right, right. So take me to your book. You wrote a book,
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty significant because it's a really crazy task that I'm one day going to consider, but not yet. What, if you look back at that whole experience, what did you learn about yourself?
So much. So much. It was a long experience. When I
The
got
title, tell me the title again.
it's
Sorry, just
called Light a Fire in Their Hearts,
right.
The Truth About Leadership. And of course, truth is not an absolute. It's like everybody figuring out what their truth is, right?
Yeah.
And this labor of love, it's interesting. So I got if you look back, like, okay, what was the moment that I decided this? So I'm also a certified passion test facilitator. And so I went to the certification weekend. It was back in 2013. And we had to do our own passion test. And so it's to figure out what are your top 5 passions in life and what's most important to you. And so then you can make informed career and life decisions. And, it was after the burnout, starting my own company. I was starting to think bigger and bigger. And I smiled when you said world domination, right? Because that's, some of us have that idea that we want to be globally helping people, right? So those seeds were planted, and because I didn't want people to go through what I went through, because it was terrible, it was awful. That's for another uh, episode, because I could talk about it for 3 hours. But anyway, so as I was doing my passion test, so it's first thought, best thought. You're not supposed to analyze what you come up with. You basically answer the question, when my life is ideal, I am, and come up with 10 to 15 statements. So one of my statements that came up was, a thought leader on leadership. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's
Who said that?
exactly. I'm like, oh boy, that feels. And then I got overwhelmed by it. I was crying. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. Right. And then another part of the process is you have to write statements that support that passion. So your top 5 passions. And one of them was, I'm an international best-selling author.
Whoa.
I hadn't even written one word. Like, it just came out. And I'm like, what am I doing?
That's so cool.
I know. So I'm like, wow. So anyway, so that was the start. And then I said, okay, well, I have this thought. So what do I do about it? And so then I started the process of writing. And actually, and this is really cute if we have time. How I got the idea for the book was I had a dream one morning. So it was early in the morning, and I woke up with this idea to write a children's book. And through the book was the main character, let's call the character Michael, was going around interviewing leaders for their assignment to figure out what's the truth about leadership. And as they were going through, they were learning about management by walking around. They were learning about engagement, TQM. I mean, I'm aging myself, but anyways. And at the end, the little boy's sitting at a Tim Hortons, because we're Canadian, and then he's trying to figure out, because something was missing, and an older gentleman, who in my mind was my one of my favorite bosses, came and said, "Young man, you seem confused or perturbed. What's going on?" And then he said, well, I did this homework, I did this assignment about leadership, but I still feel like there's something missing. What do you need to do to motivate people and engage them? And he said, well, in order to motivate and engage them, you need to light a fire in their hearts.
Oh.
So that was how I came up with the title.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, one morning.
One morning. And a lot of tears later.
One morning. So then once I had that idea, then I thought, okay, so I worked in consulting. I used to pump out proposals like 100 pages in a week was nothing, right? So I thought, several months, I'll be done, right? 5 years later.
It's a journey, Lisa.
Yeah, it was a journey. And I'm happy that it took 5 years for this main reason was that had I written it in a year or even 6 months, it would not have been the same book, because one of the things I found out about books for myself anyways, is that they have their own soul and their own personality, and they get to boss you around, and they get to tell you when you're ready to go and where you should go next. Yeah. And so it started out like a guide, but then I started meeting people and I wanted to interview them. So I interviewed over 30 leaders, and I organized it according to themes. A central theme is that what sets great leaders apart is their ability to connect at the human level through compassion, courage, and competence. Like the central theme. And then I developed other things that go along with that. And it was so cool because during that process, I got to meet Richard Branson.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And so it was because I had, practiced the passion. My friends knew I was a fan. And one of them one day out of the blue says, I'm going to this conference. My sister, and my friend's name is Linda. She goes, my sister-in-law is interviewing Richard Branson. Would you like to meet him? I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Right?
What an opportunity.
Yeah. So I met him briefly. I mean, let's not get excited. He probably doesn't remember me, but I met him briefly. And then I asked the question for him. during the Q&A, and I said, Sir Branson, like, what do you advise leaders? Like, what's your number one piece of advice? And he said this: listen, 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 listen. That's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And then look for the best in people.
Mm.
So I was able to quote him on that. So I have all these nuggets of stories, and I didn't know how I was going to end it. Like, I really didn't know how I was going to end it, except I did know the last line, which is, together we can make the world a better workplace. So I knew
Mm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was weaving and writing my own experiences with burnout and how I had to connect with my own leadership. Then I was sharing knowledge and wisdom from other leaders, and tried to follow the journey. I have topics in there around, inclusion, and really heart inspired. I interviewed Indigenous leaders. So I tried to look at the whole gamut, and then finally one day I felt like it was done. I was
Nice.
like, oh my gosh, no way, it's done. So then the next challenge was, because I had something like 400 pages of content, was to bring it back down to 250.
Wow.
So, anybody considering writing out there, oftentimes it's not trying to get a lot of content. It's like, how do you bring it back down and choose the important messages? So
Yeah.
that was so back in 2019. That's when I submitted it for publishing to Morgan James Publishing. They're based in New York, and it was launched in 2020 during the pandemic. Well, I had a
Wow.
broken arm and leg.
Oh my goodness, Lisa.
So I really didn't have the experience I was envisioning, like my book signings and all that. That didn't happen for me. But I'm happy to say I did become a number one best-selling author in Canada.
Amazing.
And also I recently won an award for International Book of Impact. So I was in 3 categories. So I'm proud. But what makes me most happy is that I hear coaches are using it with their clients, yeah. So, and it's changed lives. There's this young man in Ghana. So I've given a lot of electronic copies out to people for them to use, especially if they're somehow tied to NGOs or whatnot. So I've given electronic copies. And he wrote to me one day and he said, "Thank you. I read your book. Now I'm a manager in a coffee
Oh,
plantation." I was like, "Oh my god,"
kidding.
you know.
Those are
Uh,
that's the
yeah. So I'm really happy. I'm working on my second book. Again, I thought it was going to take a year,
best.
but year 4, we're still at it. But it's the book writing journey is as much about sharing, what's important to you with others to help, as much as it is a growth journey for yourself. I mean, I grew a lot in terms of patience, in terms of trusting, in terms of being present and not trying to force things. Because I could have sat down and, you hear, oh, that I wrote my book in a weekend. That's fantastic. It didn't happen for me. But to understand that, based on the message that you want to put out there, that you're going to experience certain things that are going to start going into your book, and it's going to write itself.
Oh wow. That's such a great story. Thanks for sharing and congratulations. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. I'm sitting here going, how did you get a publisher? Because I think that's one of the things people wonder. It's like
Yeah.
how many do you have to pitch and how long does that
Yeah,
process?
so there's different nowadays, especially. So there's many different ways, all the way from self-publishing to the traditional publishing to the hybrid publishing. And it's all based on your goals. Okay. So one of my pieces of advice is go out there, do the research, because depending on what your goal is, you might want to choose one over the other. And certainly if anybody wants, to hear my experience with that, that's great. So I got introduced. So the head of Morgan James Publishing, they were one of the first pioneers. They only take 200 or 300 people to publish their books a year, but it's hybrid. So it's kind of like a partnership.
I've
My
heard of it.
goal was, I did not want to give up the rights to my book.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep all the rights, which I have. That was really important to me. I didn't want to wait 3 years because I mean I'd already waited 5. So I'm like, okay, I need something faster. Like I'm losing patience now. And because so one of my mentors, he's in the US. His name is Joel D. Roberts. He's a communications guru. He's world renowned, and he knew the head of Morgan James, and he made an introduction, and then they liked my book. And what I liked about them was that they had people who had worked in traditional publishing were the ones who were leading it and working on it. He actually worked on the, have you ever heard of the guerrilla marketing? The whole,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he was he was the counterpart. Yeah. So and he was, I liked his values and all that stuff. And I liked that he took the time to actually talk to the authors, right? So how
Yeah.
often do you get to talk to the CEO of a publishing company? So that lined up with my goals. My second one, though, I do want to self-publish, because I've been down that route. Going for a traditional publisher doesn't really align with me, but some people love that, and of course it's great. Just know that if you're trying to become a bestseller, because that also, puts you in a certain category that helps you to get the word out even more. You can do that. Like I've seen bestsellers who are self-published. They could be hybrid, or of course, the little more traditional publishing sometimes has a bit more cachet because of the process, but things have changed dramatically. And I actually have some friends who have become publishers, so now it's more accessible, if you will. It's very accessible, and I think that's great because,
Mhm.
again, when people can write books, they're sharing their message. It's a growth journey for them, and anyone who reads their message gets to see a part of their soul, right? So I think it's whatever
Yeah.
method is,
Yeah.
as long as it aligns with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, look, I just noticed the time. this is There's so much to talk about. I feel like we need to do a whole other episode on some of the work you're doing in the world, the charities that you support.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to make sure we say a few things about that, and maybe if we need a second episode, certainly, because you've been a huge champion, Natalie. And I just want to say, so Mustakabali Wetu, our future NGO, is based in Kenya. It was inspired by my late friend Jeffrey Kiara Ndoigo, who had started this work back when he was in his early 20s, because he was based in Mogotio, and he had worked with World Vision and some other NGOs. And when they left the town, then Jeffrey had to, he didn't have to. People came to him for help. And he had a golden heart, as his mom says. And I agree with that. To help others, especially children, with their education and with nutrition. And he worked with children in the way he would describe them as greatly disadvantaged, children who didn't have enough to eat and certainly were not able to go to school.
Yeah.
And so he started Big Dreams for Africa, and but he struggled. It was hard. He was, if we were to compare lifestyles, probably like middle class here, but he devoted full time. So he tried to start businesses to try to support. He had a store at one point. He had to close down because of the pandemic, and then that's when we met, when that was happening. And he really connected with the kind of work. I offered to be, to do a passion test for him. And also we would do some mini coaching sessions, or whatever else he needed. And that's where I found out that he really wanted to be a philanthropist and to help children, not only in his community, but beyond, in Africa and around the world. And so I was working with him on that. I was trying to help to support the kids. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2024. Sorry, he became sick at the end of 2023. He passed
Mhm.
away January 15th, 2024. And since then, I've been working very closely with his family
Mhm.
to establish. And we're a certified NGO in Kenya. And Natalie, again, thank you so much for your donation. We were able to set up a classroom with computers, which his mom described as a miracle, that these
Oh,
kids are going to be computer literate. Now, Marion and Patrick graduated from high school. They're in college learning computer skills, and they're teaching the other children. and they're all looking forward to us collaborating together to offer them early leadership development, train the trainer programs. So, yeah, beautiful people what we're working with, amazing leaders like Christine and the family, and it's really an honor to be able to collaborate with them. I'm the co-chair of Mustakabali Wetu, and happy to support Christine in keeping the dream alive that her son started, and now we're doing a documentary. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and a charity event,
and
a
a
fundraiser
charity event. Yes,
in
so
Ottawa.
that's right. So the charity event where I'll have the pleasure of interviewing you is it's called Dream Big, Change the World. And it's to encourage people. It's a leadership event, so it's a transformative leadership event to inspire people and bring them hope. There's so
Mm,
much going on around us, so it's to interrupt that and let's give people something positive to focus on. What we focus on grows stronger, and let's look at ways that we can each do our little bit of good. And Jeffrey didn't wait till he was a billionaire or to have lots of money to help others. He just did.
mm,
And that's
mm,
the message, is like, okay, what can I do right now to help others?
yeah. Yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing this amazing cause to my attention. This grassroots, really beautiful, authentic, in the community, really making a difference in the lives of these children who are disadvantaged, often orphans, and this it's such an opportunity to feel and see and experience the difference charity can make.
Oh,
And that's what I am feeling right now. And I would not have done this had I not known you, because it's hard to know what's legitimate and what's not out
yeah.
there. So I appreciate that, that you came to me with this. And, June 1st, Ottawa, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the Mosaic Center, I
Yeah,
think.
it's the
Um,
Mosaic Center. It's on Saint
yeah,
Laurent Boulevard at 2 o'clock. It's from 2 to 5:30.
yeah.
So we're going to start with Jeffrey's documentary, The
Mhm.
Rough Cut. So the idea there, again, we're going to dream big, is once we have the event, there's also going to be an event in Mogotio. So Christine is organizing that probably later on in June, because the minister of gender and culture is going to be there. So she's yes. So Senator Cheptumo, who unfortunately also passed away recently, he was our big champion, and he's the one who helped us get the NGO certification
Right.
process.
Okay.
So he was a senator, and he came from Mogotio, and he really looked after us. He amazing, another heart of gold, and so his spouse was his partner was also involved in Parliament, and now she became appointed as the Minister of Gender and Culture. So they're organizing the event around her schedule, as well as the First Lady of Baringo County will be there. So the governor's partner, and um, and so we're going to do the documentary, and then we're going to add in those clips, and then we're going to submit it to international film festivals uh,
Mhm.
for documentaries, because again, everybody, you're a wonderful example, Natalie. Everybody who hears about Jeffrey's story wants to do good. It's incredible. So it's like, you know what, let's spread this story in the world, and let's inspire people to do good, and also to feel that, like, when you're helping these causes, like, it fills your heart. So it's not just like one way. Like, there's a huge benefit in a personal growth level to be doing these things, and it really does give hope when you're working on things and you're seeing the results. Especially with, I encourage anyone to do their homework, but to get involved grassroots, because that's where you see the impact. Like, these kids I met 3 years ago, and I'm seeing them grow. Patrick, who is now planning to teach the kids IT skills, and who will be in our leadership program. He used to be so shy; he wouldn't even talk, like, on camera. And now every time he gets a chance, he's going to take that microphone and represent the kids. Same thing with Marion. She started off as a shy young girl, and here she is now. She's stepping up as a leader with the kids, and you talk to them, they're very much like, I'm here to, and I'm going to help my community, right? So there's nothing that feels better than being able to contribute to these kinds of grassroots.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, you're doing so much more than contributing. You're an ambassador.
Thanks.
And and a huge part of their outreach. I also want to just say that I look forward to, because I didn't want to go in and deliver a leadership program. I wanted to make it sustainable,
Yes.
give them a train the trainer so that they can continue to do this work
Yes.
generations, even if they want to,
Yes.
make it in-house. And I really look forward to being able to do that with you and with other people in our community who are passionate about this work.
Yes.
um, so yeah, if you're in Ottawa, if you want to go to Ottawa
Yes.
this event, or if you just want to contribute, buy a ticket. And yeah, we'll put the event link in the show notes, so make sure you send that to me, Lisa, and
Yeah,
we'll
I
put that.
will.
It's just in a couple of weeks. I will be fresh off of my commencement
That's
from
right.
Harvard.
Congratulations.
I will be literally on the 28th of May coming back and then going to Ottawa.
That's awesome. That's wonderful that you're
Yeah.
doing that. And what a great I find so inspiring your story, Natalie. You have to come on my podcast too, on Earl Talks, to share your journey, and yeah, so come join us. I'll be interviewing Natalie. We also have a panel of other people who work in leadership as well as in nonprofits, and there's going to be a mini fashion show as well.
So, like, a great event. I'm really
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
yeah,
And again, if you can't make it, you can buy a ticket, and that will be a
yeah.
donation.
So
right?
what we're doing, because there's a couple people who couldn't make it because of weddings, scheduling conflicts or whatnot. So they bought a ticket, and we're paying that ticket forward. So we're going to give it to somebody who's either a community leader or who wants to come and is not able to afford it.
Yeah.
So if you buy a ticket, we pay it forward. So
Oh, that's so nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, congratulations on everything, all your hard work. I can see your passion and your energy and the momentum that you build. And, I really appreciate that. Hopefully you've learned to say no, and that you
Yes.
continue this momentum and not.
To use your words, I'm more strategic now.
That's good.
Yeah.
But real pleasure. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Always a pleasure. And I'm so glad our paths crossed and that, you're an amazing, coach, teacher, instructor, and coach. And yeah, just a pleasure to be on this path with you.
One quick request is, how can people reach you?
Yeah, so I think the easiest thing right now is just go on LinkedIn. There's only one Lisa Anna Palmer.
Yeah.
So LISA space ANNA space Palmer, PALMER. Connect with me there. I'm on there a lot. And if you have any questions, either about the NGO, the coaching, writing books, whatever it is.
Yeah, you can do a workshop.
pick a topic. It'd be great to connect with you. Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks, Lisa, again. And I look forward to our next round.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.